All right, now we're back. So
Now
that's the transition into this. So it's a
yeah,
whole,
Okay.
the
yeah,
segue. This
yeah,
is put your feet back, relax, talk about
Oh
gallery.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. This is like this. You could just be you. So no,
Oh,
your stuff is gorgeous. We'll have all the links on both the extra, which is what this is, and the real show below. So
okay.
they'll be able to find you. So not to worry about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and then when you get your website up and with pricing, let us know. So we'll all take a look at that as well.
So
Okay. I
you're so
will.
you're
So
located in Smith Falls, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that where the gallery is going to be?
No, the gallery is in Carlton Place, just
Good to
right.
know.
It's on a beautiful location, right on the Mississippi River. It's beautiful.
Hmm,
very nice.
interesting. I'll have to, if you're ever in that area, I'll have to definitely pop in and take a look. But if not, I'll be looking online for sure. So,
Definitely. Yeah. Our
um,
website is cpgallery.ca.
yeah. No, I think your programs are lovely. I'm just trying to. I'm a kind of a one man show with an IT person, a couple other things that help run artists in Canada, but figuring out how we can be connected with you with the kids programs for the collections and that. So I don't know how that can work out, but I think it's something that um, I believe in, and I think it's a huge um, benefit. And I know there is a need for it, but I also know there's a need by artists because they're trying to disperse materials in a proper manner, and it's hectic at the other end of one's life when the sibling comes in or the kids, and they have to disperse mom and dad's work,
Yeah.
and it's overwhelming. They have a house to clean and sell, and I've been through it.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's hard.
and you're overwhelmed with everything, and you just at some point you get frustrated and you say, just get the big red bin out and fill it up, and you go, oh no, don't throw that out, don't throw, that's still usable, that's valuable, and it's
Mhm.
really nice if there's a place for it to go. And
Yes.
if there's a local company where the truck will show up and actually back in, and you'll say, let's load that art desk, let's put that in, let's put art materials, whatever is there, and you know that it's going to be dispersed in the proper manner if you've gone through the system properly. And
Yeah.
but this, you're a great catalyst for this. I think that's kind of a, I'm you got me hooked. I'm hooked.
My plan is working.
Your plan finally worked on me, but no, I appreciate all your support as well, and I'm glad to help promote your programming a little bit. Steven's pretty quiet. He just fell asleep there. He's kind of
Yeah, I'm listening to the whole thing. Well, see, because you're doing it all in Canada, and we're not. We're in the other part of America.
we're north of
So
you.
and
We're
yeah,
north.
we're not, and we have programs like that here. Like well, especially from New York, they have stuff for the inner city kids and whatnot, and they
Right.
have it for the poor kids in Beverly Hills as well. But I mean, I like the fact that you were doing that. So and like I said, I was just enjoying your art. It was very beautiful, and I was like, and then you're giving back, which is nice. And I've been to not up in northern Canada, but other places in the world where you can only get to the tribe, the village, the whatever by plane.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like when you come to town and it's just you, they're just thrilled that someone's there other than, the
Yeah.
200 people there or 300 people that live there, like, oh, it's someone different we can talk to. And they don't care if you come once a month, right? It's just like, you've
Yeah.
come back. So it's very, very cool. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's, in the United States, there are indigenous communities that are
oh,
living in
yeah.
fourth world conditions. There's
Yes.
schools, not even a penny in the budget for art supplies. So,
Yeah.
if people want to seek out places like, Rosebud and Pine Ridge in the Dakotas, these places are in fourth world living conditions, and the schools have virtually no art supplies. I
Yeah.
would love to have art for aid programs running in the United States to try to support indigenous youth art in
Right.
some of those communities as well. I'm finding these days I need to clone myself if I'm going to even follow
Right.
a fraction of the dream that I have. But at this point, it's something that if somebody said, hey, like I would love to partner with you on that, I'd be very open to that because the need is vast. It's just
Right.
Yeah.
vast.
Well, you never know, right? There's enough people going. It's really funny because back in the day, the Seminoles, which now own all the Hard Rock cafes all over the world,
Yeah.
were very poor. And I remember when we would visit Hollywood, Florida, they would be selling the cigarettes from the trailer because there was no tax stamp, right? So you could buy a carton for $3 instead of at the grocery store for 10. I always remember my mom going, "We're going to the Seminoles and we're stocking up." I'm like, "All right." And then we were doing a deal in Bolivia, and I remember meeting, and I swear to God, it was like his name was Chief Dan or Chief whatever, and I can find his card, but he was the head chief for the Seminoles, and they were down there to do a deal with the indigenous people of Bolivia on the lithium mines. And this is going
Wow.
back in 2008, 2009. So they have their hands on a lot of stuff. So, and they make it from gambling. I know they give their people a little bit of money, but I'm thinking to myself, wouldn't you want to help out everybody? I mean, this isn't the 17, 18, and early 1900s where you guys were like against each other. You know,
Mhm.
like you're all, and I mean this in a tongue-in-cheek manner. Now you're against all of us. Well, I'm good with that because we kind of screwed you up. Not me personally, but ancestors. But it's sort of like, would you help each other out? Like I'm the Seminoles who have all this money, and I know I've seen some of um, their places, and they still don't even help their own people out. Like they give them their $1,000 check, and they're done. But I'm like,
Yeah.
when you want to like lift everybody up, and it really goes back. It goes back to everything. It's every like the few having a little bit, and no one having anything. So
Yeah.
it's really kind of sad that they don't even help their own groups out.
Well,
Um,
so much of the traditional lifestyle has been shattered
yeah,
by colonial rule and by residential school. I mean, the United States had residential school as well. Seems to be a bit more horrific and prevalent in Canada.
yeah,
But there was residential school system in the United States as well. But colonial rule has really shattered a lot of the cultural norms where normally communities would support each other. Of course, there
right,
were warring factions. There are in every culture.
right,
But for the most part, communities would offer support to each other. But with the breakdown of traditional culture and the interference of those lines, there's now a broken story
right,
of the Indigenous people where they're trying to piece things back together again. But it's hard to overcome something that has been a part of your life for so long, and that
right.
divisive nature of colonial interference has created a lot of that static in communities where they don't support each other. It's really
Right.
hard. It's not a blame game, really. It's just the facts of history, unfortunately.
Right. And the other thing is they lost their history as well. It's sort of like when they tell the stories, or if you read some of the books where someone's interviewed someone from like the last century and is like the last chief for the I mean this with no disrespect, but the last great chief that,
Yeah.
rode the horses and fought and did, and you read their oral history, you're like, that is really cool. And a lot of that has been lost because of whether it be the internet, whether it be just because kids today are much different than kids were 200 years ago,
Yeah.
and whatnot. So it's a shame though, because there's such culture there that people just don't have a clue.
Well, there is a lot of loss. There's no doubt about it. But you might be surprised at how much of the history is retained.
Okay.
Traditionally, the indigenous culture right across Turtle Island, across North America, are an oral
Right.
culture, and so those stories are passed down. They're the winter count stories are still prevalent today. So when it's too cold to be outside, a lot of communities share those old stories that have been kept
Right.
alive, barely an ember in the fire. But that fire is now igniting the youth, and the youth are hungry for those stories. And the elders are sharing that information before they leave this world. So they're leaving behind a legacy of history
Right.
that's now being rekindled as far as interest and curiosity in the youth. So it's exciting to
Right.
see. Language revitalization is huge, which is
Right.
part of why we developed the land-based learning program support system for schools, because the land, being on the land, links them to the culture and the language, because everything is spoken of in the traditional language. The language is traditional language is based on the earth, and
Okay.
so it's not. Um, it's a very descriptive language. So, for example, the Inuit culture has something like 300 some words for snow, because there's so
Wow.
many different types of snow. There's sticky snow, there's fluffy snow, there's snow that sticks to your runners, that snow that packs into the dog's feet. There's snow that falls lightly but you can't see.
Right.
There's lots of different. So it's a very descriptive language, and that language connects people to the land in a way that other languages don't. Most Indigenous languages are systemically linked to the earth. And
Very
so
cool.
the revitalization of language is a really important component of the culture, and the storytelling is a strong aspect of that
Yeah. See,
culture.
that I would love to record the storytelling. I think that would be very cool to get somebody, an elder on, that can tell you the stories of their story. because their story of creation is not much off of the Egyptian story of creation, which is not much off of this story. So they're all intertwined. Not the
Yeah.
fable that these people read, but anyway, the
Yeah,
real
yeah.
story of that. You know what I mean? Like, so it's fascinating when I read the history books, and it'll be like, oh, and this tribe or that tribe in America, but I'm like, interesting. And then you go and you read something about the Egyptians, Book of the Dead, and it's almost like, okay, so
Yeah.
there's a lot to it. And if you don't, and as we say, if you don't know history, you know nothing.
Right.
You know, and
Yeah.
so if that's what I'm saying. So yeah, so that would be, to me, would be awesome just to have the elders sit down and do like a huge broadcast of where they just tell the stories and just
Mhm.
have that for prosperity and put on the net forever. That would be the most
Yeah.
awesome thing. So if you come across an old chief who's got nothing to do for 6 hours, let us know. So we'll have to tell some stories.
Well,
So
CBC has some regular programming that is Indigenous, and they
Yeah.
have the Indigenous hours where they talk about things, and there's music, and I think some of the culture is coming back through music and spoken
Mhm.
word and dance and some of the just storytelling. There's more powwows than ever publicly in large spaces, not
Yeah.
just on the reserve. And I've noticed going into even the bookstores now, there is more written words, books about history and stories, storytelling, and kids' books that are beautifully illustrated and written that tell the story in
Yeah.
different ways that kids can get it. And also the language is also kind of translated within the book.
That's right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they understand pictorially and then verbally they're either reading Mi'kmaq or they're reading Inuit or some of the
Mhm.
number of different languages that we have. I don't
Mhm.
know how many languages there are within the Indigenous community in our
Oh,
First Nation.
hundreds. Yeah,
Hundreds, yeah.
yeah, there are subtle dialect differences. I'm certainly not a linguistics expert by any stretch, but I know the Dakota, Nakota, Lakota. They're all similar languages, but there are subtle differences that define them as a people.
Right.
Same
And
here. There's Stony Cree, there's Plains Cree, there's Western Cree or Eastern Cree. So there's lots of subtle differences in the dialects.
wow.
In British Columbia alone, I mean, my gosh, there's a diverse array of dialects among
We have the Newfoundland English.
yeah. You speak Symphonies, but
I'm sorry, I just had to say that. It was just like, what did you just say? I can't understand a word you just said. There's somewhere, yeah, I don't know what it is about it. But part of it is it's a Scottish-based language, but also, what do you call it? It's from, I can't remember that. I've lost my train of thought. It's a mix of languages and just being away from everyone in the
yeah,
language. I think, and I don't know, but it's really hard. It's very foreign when you land on that island and you want to communicate and you think you're talking to somebody, but it's like you have to back up
yeah,
and listen really hard
yeah,
for especially an old guy who's got lots of language and he's a little Irish in him and there's a little Scot in him and Gaelic, that's the word I was looking for. And Gaelic,
yes.
you put Gaelic into anything, that's
Oh,
like adding spice into stew. Like it's
yeah,
really
that's right.
anyway.
Spicy language.
I love it though that we have a diverse language but it's communication becomes a big problem in part of it. But I sort of like going into like a lot of cities now have 20 different types of restaurants. It's amazing. I mean, you can go in some restaurants here in Saskatoon, you get bannock, you get
Yeah,
different types of bannock. You can have like, um, wild rice, like eating, and how to harvest wild rice is another thing. But
yeah,
those, East Indian food and Indonesian food and Asian food, and that's culture.
yeah.
That's really sparks. What's it like down where you are, Stephen? Like for
in
food?
Austin, they've got hamburgers and ribs, and that's pretty much all we got. Yeah,
Beef, beef, and more beef.
that's right.
Oh, we.
They have a version of K Town, so that's interesting. All three restaurants. We have a mini version of Chinatown, which is also interesting. So yeah, so it's not like LA or New York where I'm in the mood for X and I can go out the door and go get X. So
Right.
it is Austin. I mean, as much as they're diverse and people from LA and New York are coming here, It's still pretty much like, go kill the cow. I need my side of beef and we're good. And, but they're getting there. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I
So
figure
there's
by the
nothing,
turn of the next century.
yeah, there's no
So
Tex-Mex Chinese food.
I'm sure there is. I have not found it. So thank God for that.
The
Every
chicken
place,
So,
fusion.
every place has
yes.
Chinese food, even across the prairies in
Yes,
Canada.
everybody has Chinese food because it's easy to make. I mean, they make it as my wife's Asian. So whether you're white, you're black, you're green, or whatever, you're white. So it doesn't, they don't, there's no prejudice. It's just, you're just white. So like my black friend, my wife goes, you white guys are just going to eat what I cook. And I just think that's funny. So, sure, whatever you say. So, but they laugh because they just, as she speaks Mandarin, when they go to a restaurant, they speak in the language and they bring out this gorgeous dish and my wife says, yes, we're not having it whitenized. We're eating actual authentic Asian food. She said, so
Nice.
when we go, like when I go by myself, she looks at you and it doesn't matter. Like I said, what color? It's just a bunch of white people at a table. You're going to eat whatever because that's all you know. So when I go with her, she orders and we get like, ooh, I've never had this. It's like, it's because you have to know the secret handshake. And apparently
Yeah.
speaking Mandarin is the secret handshake. So
Yeah, we have the North American Chinese food. Then you can have, if you have a friend that's is Asian or Chinese, you get the real food because they order it from the back that off a
yes.
different menu.
Yep.
You
Yep.
get otherwise you get North American Chinese.
Well, I will say this:
Yeah.
we do have an Indian restaurant here, and
Oh yeah,
they like us. So because they like us, when we order, we get real Indian. He'll
yeah.
be like, he gives us the menu, and it's just like, he's just tell me what you okay, and he closes it. He comes back with exactly what we want. And it's nothing that's on the menu. So
Right.
it's very, very, very happy to have that. So
So
Wow.
do you have any I guess indigenous restaurants or where that serve traditional foods?
I'm
Me or
assuming you're
Stephen?
asking her. No,
Colleen,
she's talking
yeah,
definitely talking to you, Colleen.
yeah, we're
Oh.
talking to you.
Yeah.
um, so out here, there's Madahoki Farm is on Hunt Club Road, and they have a beautiful culinary department in their learning center. So, well, it's not really a learning center. It's Madahoki Farm is a place to experience Indigenous culture. It's a fantastic um, organization that works to educate and provide Indigenous experiences to non-Indigenous people through employing Indigenous people. So they have a fantastic chef on site who has developed their own drinks. They have their own recipes. They have beautiful meals that you can go and have during celebrations. They always have their stuff set up so you can experience, what it's like maybe to have buffalo or some wild food like cattail roots. Oh my gosh! I mean, the list goes on. Bannock, all kinds of different stuff. Fry bread. There's lots of different things that they make, and their chef is top notch. So yeah,
Oh,
you really have a fantastic experience. I know Toronto has a wonderful restaurant that actually supports Art for Aid as well. Their artists are always donating a portion of their proceeds to Art for Aid.
Hmm.
Mijida Cafe is another one. Oh my God, there's so many. Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah.
They're becoming more and more prevalent. You
Yeah.
just have to drive around. I think there's even a couple in Ottawa now.
yeah,
It doesn't take very much to find them. You just ask a few people, and the foodies will tell you where to go.
yeah. Sort of like the old days. You follow wherever the truck drivers stopped. That's
That's
where you
right.
go and eat, right?
That's it. That's it. Not
Yeah,
anymore.
Yeah,
yeah.
The old, yeah, back in the day.
back
Back
in
in
the
the
day.
So
day, yeah.
back in the day.
And in Saskatoon we have Wanuskewin, which is a buffalo jump, and it's a tourist area now. And they talk about they've actually introduced some of the bison back onto the land and
Yes.
Nice.
in the buffalo jump and stuff. So there's a beautiful restaurant again, and you can have a bison burger, and you can have, I don't know, I haven't been there for a number of years, but but it is a good learning center, and they have a number of art galleries and of course the gift store and a bunch of other little things, but that help,
Mhm.
indigenous artists sell their products and the things that they make.
Excellent.
Um, yeah, so I'm hoping that we are making headway a little bit in a positive manner. It's really hard and struggling. Everybody's struggling post COVID,
Mhm.
uh, but you can't use that as an excuse.
Yeah.
You just stated a plan
Yeah.
and move ahead. And I think I think what you're doing is it's an amazing thing for one person to have a plan and have a few other people help you with your plan. And and push along. I sort of kind of do that a little bit with Artists in Canada a little bit, but it's
You hear a lot.
but like you get tired, like, and don't tire yourself out when you're working 24/7.
Yeah.
You need to, like you said, get away and do a drawing or a painting for yourself. And I think, but I really like the fact that people can help support what you're doing and feel good and help themselves get rid of some of that excess stuff that they have, and just finding a place to put that. Even if you're in the States, like you said, find a place in some of the reserves and some of those areas, because they would really appreciate some of the some of the things that you have access of.
Oh, they would. They really
Yeah.
would. Yeah.
Well,
Very
David.
cool.
Yeah.
I'm Steven. I'm the other one. I'm the good-looking one. So
Oh, I'm looking at the ghost of David. God,
the ghost of David. Yes, that's true. Colleen,
You know what?
you've been
You
a
know what?
delight, my dear. Yes, yes. Go ahead.
Thank you so much.
We're
Yeah.
gonna have to get a cardboard cutout of him and just stick him in the chair.
David, like right here.
David.
That's like
Yeah.
David.
Oh, no,
He'll
he
be
can
with
have
us.
his
He'll be with us on Thursday, though. So that'll be good.
He can have his
So that'll
own
be
picture.
interesting. Colleen was very lucky that David wasn't on the show, because he would have been, we'd still be talking 6 hours later, because he'd have lots of questions. So,
Questions we would have.
now we're going to run the end credits for real. So
Okay.
Colleen, thank you so much. Paul, it's always a pleasure. Thank you, everybody, for the extras. This is the first extra we did. Hopefully everybody liked it, and we'll see you all next Thursday. Cheers.
Take care.
Bye.